Obviously, I'm in a pretty bubbly mood. I'm sure you guys can tell that, it's not really my usual demeanor, right? Well, it turns out there's extremely good reason for that. Unfortunately, I can't get into like the nitty gritty details. I would love to, not just because, because of the conceptual continuity, really, with my recommended. What the fuck is this? I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't matter. What was I talking about? Okay, so yeah. It's really congruent with my message in general that all this is playing out the way it is. And some of you guys know there was like a crypto fiasco. And that actually led to something much, much better than that, because I have been the victim of censorship from Facebook and Google in general. Also X too, actually worse, really. My criticism of Elon and his pets has gotten me, like, my followers dropped by half in a matter of days, and I've been saying the same type of stuff since the beginning, so that's not it. And also I pay for the premium and I get like 0 views if I comment on threads with millions of people. So why are they not showing it to anyone? It's ridiculous, man. And so this crypto incident led to a situation where it became evident that we could possibly try to form a class action lawsuit against Facebook. And, in order to do something like that, you'd need to have some really powerful people in your corner. Guess what? So I didn't know that until I needed to know that, I guess. And like I said, I can't really get into all of it at the moment. I need to wait until things are, moving forward a little bit more. The first step is to get a website. So if you or anyone you know, I feel so silly saying this, but it's real. If you or anyone you know has been hurt by Facebook censorship, had an account deleted, and lost a bunch of business contacts or something, you may be entitled to legal compensation, and you should shoot Illuminostic an email. And we'll have a website up. We're looking to see if victimsoffacebook.com is available. And the last thing I have to say about this is that those conspiracy theorists out there that, I can't really, but there's a certain message on my channel that a lot of people take issue with. And if you guys knew who it was that was helping me to go after Facebook, a lot of conspiracy theorists are going to be pretty confused and upset if they knew. And you will know eventually, I think, but we have to wait until things are ironed out. And so, in other news, we are in an amazing place now. This is my first stream from the new property, the Maloka. I'm looking at it right out the window. We have a nice little temple space for our plant medicine ceremonies. There's an apartment with 2 rooms and a shared kitchen, so you can make your own meals. And then if you're not bothering us with that, you get a discount if you come in for one of our events. And we haven't found any morels yet, but there are wild mushrooms popping up, and more so and more so. A couple of neighbors have told us about, having bought morels from people. So it's kind of like a legend, and some people say that they're not here, but we found videos of the Quechua out picking them, and also people posting, "Stop burning the forest so that morels will grow." So that's still a thing. Also tonight we're trying Psilocybe natalensis, which is a mushroom with a reputation for being the best in the world. And it's new, just a couple of years ago, I think it was discovered. Well, no, the species was discovered a long time ago, but somehow they didn't catch on with growers and really get recognized until the last couple of years, I guess is a better way to put it. But low to no nausea, low to no body load, no matter what the dosage is. Very euphoric, better visuals. I mean, everything about them I hear. I've only taken little bits, and tonight will be the first spelunk. But those will be featured. Ruins all around our house. We have alpacas and sheep in the yard. There's, big cloud of, fog rolling up through the valley right now outside. Massive, 18,000 foot peaks all around the house. And the Quechua here are sweet and friendly, and they live as they have for 1,000 years. And if I was you, I would come and visit us. What are we doing? Okay, so I'm sorry, guys. I just we've been having trouble with the power here, the Peruvian, just craziness, I guess. And they've been shutting it off and on. Last night it was blinking on and off. Turned out it was because they were having a party and they decided to go straight into the main lines or something to get power for it. I don't know, man, but it's been a little bit hectic. So I decided that since the power is stable right now, that I would jump on, and I wasn't planning to do this. So please forgive me for my lack of preparedness. The divine. That's not good. Hopefully my mic's been working all this time. Let me see. That might have caused a problem. So, oh no, looks like we're good. Are we good? You guys can hear me? I hope that I wasn't just talking into the air with my mic cord disconnected for minutes on end. That would be gay. Oh yeah, you're not supposed to say that anymore, right? Oh well, guys. Guess who doesn't give a shit? Really don't. Just like everything about Hermes is thrice, right? The thrice greatest, the third eye, say things 3 times for magical spells, and on and on and on. 3rd century, we have the reemergence of a Christianized version of Hermeticism. We hate that. And by we, I mean me and Gollum, my imaginary friend here. But seriously, the story of a lot of the Old Testament stories, like the David and Goliath, oh my God, the rod of Aaron, Moses and the snake, the caduceus, and on and on and on, So they hijacked all of this stuff, and then they gutted it so that it didn't empower people and turn it into a religion to make passive slaves and to, stop people from thinking critically and to separate science and spirituality, which is something that is just absolutely one of the greatest tragedies to have ever befallen mankind. The number of hours I've spent the last week in the comic sections on the theory of everything, just trying to explain to people, that there's like this idea that you're either a Christian or an atheist, or a theist or an atheist, at the very least, and people don't seem to even have the capacity, a lot of them, to entertain the possibility that there could be a sort of integrated intelligence in the fabric of the universe that is developing in step with the creation itself. Or, there's all kinds of other more subtle and realistic possibilities than a sky god that obviously doesn't exist. And it's obviously stupid to say that nature is blind and dumb and random, and that the human eyeball configured itself blindly and randomly and then wired itself to a brain, which is like the most complicated, you know what I mean? 2 extremes, dumb as hell in both, and both extremes, just mind-blowingly dumb and engineered to be that way, and Aristotle remarked when the mysteries were outlawed in Rome that mankind was doomed if they succeeded in squashing the mysteries. And the real teachings that lie behind the Pymander, the real knowledge of Hermes, are basically the fundamental constituents that were sort of corrupted and blunted and emasculated and disempowered, corrupted, in order to create Christianity and Islam and all of these other nonsense religions. I crap upon your crapulous creeds, as Aleister Crowley said. So anyways, for the 3rd century Hermeticist to, again, try to Christianize this stuff is just adding insult to injury. They already destroyed it once. And then I think my suspicion is that it reemerged, and the church always does this. They try to re-engineer stuff in a Christian, if they can't kill it, then they try to slurp it up into their parasitic amoeba fucking form and mutate it into some kind of dangerous alien fucking parasite. And so part of my goal here, because I was thinking, there's the religious parts of the Corpus Hermeticum, and then there's like the analytical stuff, the functional stuff. I can't remember how the scholars put it, the academics, but basically those two categories. And I was thinking, do we really need to read all of this entire body of work with commentary? And I decided, yes, we do, because I would like to have the opportunity to filter out, to destroy, to separate the wheat from the chaff, and to exorcise the demon Jesus from the Hermetic, the Corpus Hermeticum. So let me set up my OBS because I didn't have time to do that. I'm really sorry for those of you in the vertical chat that all you're going to see is my goofy face there, because for some reason I have not been able to get my OBS to change both windows. So better than not having it, I guess. I don't know. So let me see here. Let's do the screen capture, I think. I mean, you guys have no idea. Maybe you do. The possibility of getting to like sue Facebook is just so deeply satisfying. What is this? I just moved this. That's the wrong fucking box. Sorry, guys. I gotta make myself small. Get out of your way. Yeah. Check in with the chat one more time before we jump into the book. And I am trying to figure out how to get my overlay to work so I can have the chat on while I'm doing the stream. I apologize, I didn't have time to get to it yet. We've been crazy busy with all kinds of stuff, moving and everything. Man, it is gorgeous here, and it's so calm and peaceful, you guys. And then, this nightmare of getting like locked out of this account, but then having this other situation replace it is just like the best possible scenario. And before we get into the book, actually, let me largen. Can I go? What the fuck word is it? I don't even know how to use a computer, guys. Can you tell? I'm trying to like make this full screen. I don't even know how to do it. Ridiculous. All right. So, anyways, what I was saying is that I've been talking a lot about how, I feel like I had been stepping back into a sort of alignment with my real purpose, and I had gotten kind of cynical and jaded and detached from music in general and all of this kind of stuff. And then as soon as I started to realign, everything started to weirdly come together. And then this most recent development is like a level of that is nearly incomprehensible. So... yeah. And you'll see in a couple of days kind of what I mean. This is Hermes Trismegistus, his first book. I, my son, write this first book both for humanity's sake and for piety towards God. Now, you guys have to remember also that a lot of these older texts, this happened to science as well, if you look at the private writings of people like Darwin, even, who said the human eyeball was enough to challenge his theory of evolution, and Oppenheimer and a lot of Einstein was not an atheist. He believed in the God of Spinoza, which is basically the Hermetic kind of concept, the original one, sort of a field of integrated intelligence, not this sort of sky god. But this was the 3rd century. They did not want to get burned alive. So it is even possible that partly due to the burning of the Library of Alexandria and the destruction of so many texts and the fact that they knew, that the church was going to do this. In fact, in the Gnostic writings, there's a lot of allegory and metaphor that people take literally, like the archons. I talk about this a lot. Archons are not spirits. They were a magistrate in Rome that was sent to destroy the mysteries and to intercede when people tried to attain knowledge of divine power or whatever, So what I'm getting at is I think some of this Christianization of this wasn't even, genuine. It was the only thing they could do to protect the transmission of these lineages. And with that in mind, For there can be no religion more true or just than to know the things that are, and to acknowledge thanks for all things to him that made them, which thing I shall not cease continually to do. Now, if you really pay attention, there's some subtle blasphemy in there by the standards of the church, because there is a sort of prohibition on knowledge of all the things that are, to really know nature in its depth, to understand magic. And there really is a reason for this prohibition to an extent. If you think about Einstein, it was a 0.5 gram of matter that blew up Hiroshima. We cracked the secrets of nature. Wise too soon, rich too soon, wise too late. And we kindled the same energy that lights the stars upon our enemies. And so it's not entirely unfair to say that, there should be a process of initiation and hierarchy that is not about subjugation, but about initiation, into like different hierarchical stages of knowledge, depending on your capacity to receive this wisdom, so you can walk with knowledge wisely. What then should a man do, O Father, to lead his life well, seeing there is nothing here true? All of these things are true and false, and they are both true and false to say that they are true and false. This is something that, man, we're not going to get very far, are we? This is going to be slow going. This is something that science has loved to ridicule, right? The mainstream mind, you say, it is and it is not. And science and the mainstream muggle mind says, you're an idiot, nice try, trying to sound deep, but this is just word salad, it's gobbledygook. Oh, really? Really? So time has an arrow, but doesn't have an arrow, you mean that only in our mind, and then it all happens at once, so it is and it's not. Matter is solid, but it's mostly empty space, so it is and it's not. It literally will apply to everything under the sun. Nothing here is true. Be pious and religious, O my son, for he that doth so is the best and highest philosopher. And without philosophy it is impossible ever to attain to the height and exactness of piety and religion. Now again, this is true and valid, and it is a fair argument of people who are religious when they say, like, look what atheism has done. Science is trying to drive God out of the universe. Well, I hope to hell so. It's not that, though. If you look at the institutions and the institutionalized religions, they're all for Catholicism. They're all for Judaism. They're all for Islam. They're all for all of these absolutely useless, destructive, toxic tools against mankind. You know what I mean? They are weapons. They're psyops, every single one of them. And the reality is that initiated thinking, the ability to actually create a dialogue with the universe, and by that, you could even say to run an equation between your subconscious and the external world that produces a certain equity in your understanding, equanimity, I think I meant to say. You know what I mean? The awareness of a universal mind, this transcendental experience that is actually our normal experience, right? Our entire protocol for our ontological protocol, right, has been about bringing the ineffable down to the level of the mundane. Everything, the transcendent is all around us. As Jung said, synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. It's just the symmetry, and the symmetry is the beauty, right, of the universe. So, ever since Egypt, according to Albert Pike, the 33rd degree supreme commander of the southern jurisdiction of the United States in 1851, all the way back in Egypt, the pharaohs recognized that initiated thinking was a threat to their sovereignty, and therefore they persecuted the initiates and drove the adepts out of the country back to Greece, where the consulate did it again, and then they went to Europe, and then things happened, and the European archons and magistrates managed to infiltrate and cause a bunch of problems and whatnot. But the point is, they're not trying to get rid of your stupid-ass religion, people. You know what I mean? That's not it. They love that. They love that. They created it. You know, it is a cage for your mind. But abject materialism is just as bad, and it's not the truth, you know? And so that's the middle ground that we're looking for here. So, you know, be pious and religious, O my son, for he that doth so is the best and highest philosopher, and without philosophy it is impossible. It's true, but not religion. Religion is, what does it mean? Like to bind? Yeah, to bind. Oh, that's great. That's great. You know, we should figure out how to make a new word that means to liberate, I guess. That's, maybe we can construct it so it sounds similar. I bet you can, easily. I'll look into some etymological stuff and see if we can't engineer a new... You know, I hate the word spirituality, too, because when I say that, people think I mean woo. And that, you know, I'm sitting around with a can of foaming goo and wrapping some newspaper around my head so I look like I is deep, mumbling some mumbo jumbo and trying to put people to sleep with that cosmic debris. Frank Zappa, guys. All right, but he that shall learn and study the things that are, and how they are ordered and governed, and by whom, and for what cause or to what end, will acknowledge thanks to the workman, as to a good father, an excellent nurse, and a faithful steward. He that gives thanks shall be pious or religious, and he that is religious shall know both where the truth is and what it is. And learning that, he will be yet more and more religious. Again, if we just take the word religious out and replace it with, you know, connected, mindful, you know what I mean? It's better. For never, O my son, shall or can that soul, which while it is in the body lightens and lifts up itself to know and comprehend that which is good and true, slide back to the contrary. For it is infinitely enamored thereof, and forgetteth all evils. And when it hath learned and known its father and progenitor, it can no more apostatize or depart from the good. And the Hermetic science that lies behind that is based on real science, you know, and it's not true that you can't regress. I've been surprised by the degree to which it's possible. I've seen people climb, I mean, including me again, you know, at one point I climbed to an incredibly lofty height and fell just as far, because if you don't have the reinforcements, you know, you don't have the proper preparation, it's better not to climb at all. You know, it really is. Your chances of scaling the heights and staying up there are not very high. So, you know, but it generally goes like this, right? You go up too high, you fall back, and then you go up even higher, and then you fall back, and, you know, the overall trajectory is higher. And why is that? Everything that cycles is drawing everything else that cycles up with it. It's called entrainment. It's a scientific fact. And that's my theory about all this, you know, that there is some sort of, as Terence McKenna described, a attractor in hyperspace, and it's probably electromagnetic. You know, it is electromagnetic on this plane. That's definitely how it would interface with us. You know, so as you focus your tractor beam, you know, you can think of it as a laser. The more focused the laser is, the more direct the connection. And so your trajectory and your velocity is determined by this focus and the intensity of this connection with this electromagnetic attractor oscillating beyond us in hyperspace. So that's the science behind the assertion that he's making. For this only, O son, is the way to truth, which our progenitors traveled in, and by which making their journey they at length attained to the good. It is a venerable way and plain, but hard and difficult for the soul to go in that is in the body. I don't know about that wording. For first must it war against its own self, and after much strife and dissension, it must be overcome of one part. For the contention is of one against two. while it flies away, and they strive to hold and detain it. That is a tough one. That is a tough one to articulate in another way. It's not really a war against self, you know. I mean, you guys probably understand what I mean, but for the contention of one against two, that is a brilliant way to put that. And they strive to hold and detain it. Well, let's go into the next verse and see if that helps us to contextualize that. But the victory of both is not like, for the one hasteth to that which is good, and the other is a neighbor to the things that are evil. And that which is good desireth to be set at liberty, and the things that are evil have bondage and slavery. I mean, you know, we're talking about the two different components of the personality, basically on one level, but we're also talking about the fact that everything is fundamentally composed of antinomies, of opposites, that everything contains its contradiction, that the interaction of these opposite forces creates a third thing of a higher nature. This is the fundamental function of, or not function, but mechanism of alchemy. And by the way, I just ran into my new neighbor, and apparently he's into plant alchemy and has all kinds of interesting gadgets and plants at his house, and has invited me up there to check that out. So hopefully we'll get a video out of that, and we'll get to see exactly what he's up to. Sounds super interesting, though. But yeah, so, you know, we are that Trinity, really. This interaction of these things that creates a medium, you know. And I think for every person, that interface of good and evil, of ego and, you know, non-ego, or however you want to term it, id, our behavior generally is a mediation of those two influences. You know, you try to like find a place in the middle where you can actually function and operate. The trick really, and this is kind of the principle of alchemy in the spiritual sense, is that if you are able to expand the capacity to process both dark and light energies, those will combine to create a fuel that will push the third thing higher. You know, and this you could say like good and evil, and the third thing is here, you know. And so another great explanation or elucidation of this is the symbolism of the pyramid in the eye in the triangle, and the fact that it's floating, for one thing. Freemason. Let's not diverge too much. So here's an example of the symbolism, right? When you do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, you have four corners and a circle. For directions, for, you know, archangels, elements, whatever. And really, this isn't just the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. This is like any magical practice anywhere on Earth, almost. Anything I've seen, anyways, or read about. I know of no exceptions to this. Where the circle is not cast and the four directions are not acknowledged. I'm literally just, it's kind of hitting me now. I guess I've always assumed that I must know of some exception, but I don't think I do. Not one. And so the circle is the macrocosm, your microcosm, the universe, and each one of the corners, you know, you could think of as the corners of the pyramid. And you, as the magician, standing in the middle, is the consciousness that has now entered this previously two-dimensional plane of a circle and a square. You know, now you are consciousness, and it has become a real and habitable place. And so that is another expression of this reality, I guess. And if the two parts be overcome, they become quiet and are content to accept of it as their ruler. But if the one be overcome of the two, It is by them led and carried to be punished by its being and continuance here. This is, O son, the guide in the way that leads thither, for thou must first forsake the body before thy end and get the victory in this contention and strifeful life. And when thou hast overcome, return. But, now, my son, I will be heads run through the things that are. I will by heads run through the things that are. Understand thou what I say, and remember what thou hearest. All things that are moved only by that which is not. All things that are moved, only that which is not is immovable. All things that are moved, sorry. Thought I was seeing double, but the word actually is there twice. All things that are moved, only that which is not is immovable. This is an interesting thing here. In the Kabbalistic tradition, and I really feel like this underlies a lot of other traditions or concepts, creation myths, however you want to put it. The concept that the thing that really, the turtle, that the universe is actually resting on its back, that turtle is actually absolute nothingness. And it is the only thing in the universe that is immovable. And if you read Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike, maybe the first chapter, but no, I don't know, in the Night of the Sun, Prince Adept, I think maybe 24, degree 24, he takes on the perspective of deity and he says, the Phoenicians thought me light, but I am nothing. And the word nothing is in all caps, right? So this is kind of a hint, and the way this stuff is structured is that little by little, more and more is given, and the veil of allegory is slowly dissolved, which I think is the next line. But yeah, that's what's being hinted at there, is that this God, the real true perfection that is actually the fount and source of everything, but also what supports it, ironically, is this absolute nothingness at the very core of existence. Because if God is eternal perfection, there cannot be a stain, a blemish, a mark, a thought, nothing, Otherwise, it's not perfect. And in order to understand why that is, you need to understand the veil and its function as a sort of Fourier transform of ideal to actual. At least that's how we think of it around these parts. Everybody is changeable. Not every body is dissolvable. Some bodies are dissolvable. Every living being is not mortal. Not every living thing is immortal. That which may be dissolved is also corruptible. That which abides always is unchangeable. That which is unchangeable is eternal. That which is always made is always corrupted. That which is made but once is never corrupted. Neither becomes any other thing. Okay. The core secret of all of this stuff, all of the mysteries and all of these secret occult traditions, is knowledge of light, basically. You look at Sir Isaac Newton, who was obsessed with light and prisms and, figured out what gravity is and all of this sort of stuff. There's a reason that these things are all connected. And it is through contemplation of the one thing that all of the knowledge in the universe can be attained. And what is that one thing? What is the one thing that is unchangeable, that is eternal? Then this is like scientifically true. This is the one thing in the universe that does not change. It has no mass, so it's basically nothingness. It is and it's not. The closer you are to the source, the more you express all of these characteristics and whatnot. This is why observation of light is the best possible way to revelation, right? So the photon at the speed of light, there's no time. It is eternal. It's unchanging. In the Bible, it says, let there be light, and that's the first thing. And it probably isn't, because the wave would have been first and then the light. Chicken or the egg. But, that would have been the first, manifest thing. And then all of the matter in the universe is light in a standing wave, right? So there's only two things in the universe, that which is not and that which is light. And then the things that have been changed are corrupted. The light, once it becomes matter, is subject to dissolution. And at some point, quantum loop theory, even in physics, is suggesting that this is now possibly proven. The light redintegrates the matter, the light from the matter redintegrates back into the source, and then the whole thing collapses, the singularity happens again. It's just this systole, diastole, expansion, contraction, recycling process of the phoenix that is the universe. And so that's part of what is being expressed here, is that behind all of this is the light. Firstly, God. Second, the world. Thirdly, man. The world for man, man for God. Why is that? Why is that? So simple. Of the soul, that which is sensible is mortal, but that which is reasonable is immortal. And so we are the sensory organs of the universe. The world for man, man for God. For this intelligence that has nothing to do, the devil's bargain thing in that Joni Mitchell song. We are stardust, we are golden, we are, what is the next? We are caught in the devil's bargain, and we gotta get ourselves back to the God. You know that song? That's what this is about. If we were to spend eternity with God, which would be eternal perfection, absolute nothingness, boring, but safe. There are no tanks there. There are no nukes. There are no right-wingers or left-wingers to terrorize each other. There's none of this crap. Just absolute nothingness. So the light bearer, the wave comes along, and it's like, should we wiggle? And rebels against this nothingness. And so it catches fire, light, and it descends and becomes matter, And then we have an option, according to Plato, of escaping off into other realms or getting sucked back into the sun, Helios, hell, the lake of fire, and then regurgitated back on our planet with our slate mopped clean. The lights are starting to dim again, so I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to go here. Revealing too many secrets. It's not sensible. Caught you on a live finally. Cheers. I'm glad to be here too because I'm in a really good mood. Yeah, please do hit the like button. Also subscribe. We lost one of our longtime followers today. I have no idea why, but that sucks. So yeah, we could. But I really like to keep the Patreon above 600, and it has fallen below it again. So somebody go over there and fix it. If you want to take counsel with me about just about anything, you can get FaceTime, or you can join our live streams where we go into great depth about this type of stuff. And then also there are other perks. If you've been around for a while and you decide to come to an event, you get a discount. And I really like talking to the people in this community, man. Somebody contacted me the other day, and I was a little bit hesitant even because we had just moved in, and I've been celebrating a little bit, but it sounded urgent, so. And it wasn't actually, but I thought it was urgent. So, I was like, okay, I'll do it. And we ended up talking for like 3 hours. I don't normally go that far over the 15 minutes or whatever it's supposed to be. But the point is that, really is great medicine for me to find out that there are really intelligent people that are actually trying to do stuff. And, then I find out we also have some like hooked in monsters, good monsters, but we have this community's got some clout. Like, I have to, for a minute, but, but it's a really good feeling to see that, we're pretty impressive people, a lot of us. And the one thing I hope is that we can start actually, networking more effectively and creating more actual stuff of substance. That's what the Discord is for. And I'm going to get those weekly talks going again Monday or Tuesday. So, Riggy firstly, God. Secondly, third, world of man, God. Okay, of the soul, the part which is sensible is mortal, and that part which is reasonable is immortal. Every essence is immortal. Every essence is unchangeable. Everything that is doable. Double. Everything that is double. Sorry. None of the things that are stand still. None of the things that are moved by a soul, but everything, not all things are moved by a soul, but everything that is moved by a soul. Well, duh, come on, that didn't really need to be said, did it? But I did want to break for a second to, sensible is mortal, but that which is reasonable is immortal. Okay, so the stuff about essence is immortal, and, what does this mean? Let's say that my recollections of reincarnations are actually correct, right? I have a lot of differences between myself and these previous incarnations. However, the basic message and intent and energy of my life has been the same since I was, since I can remember, 6 years old. And that energy and philosophy and metaphysics and whatever has been wildly consistent. The stories also of like the, relationship with the mom, and there's like this weird archetypal pattern that runs through it, which could explain all the similarities to an extent as well. But that's the kind of thing we mean, or if you want to take it to a as above, so below kind of blueprint or format, carbon, right? Let's say that a single molecule of carbon becomes a piece of coal, and then it becomes a diamond, and then it is crushed to sand, and then, whatever, it goes on through it. It eventually becomes glass. But then at the end of the life cycle of the sun swells up real big, and all of those elements are once again separated, as would be the case with great heat. Therefore, that carbon molecule emerges unchanged despite all of its incarnations as various beings, or, so, and that's really the essence of Hermetic science there. You see this happen with a carbon molecule, and then okay, well, probably souls do that too. And then also with light, that carbon is not carbon. That carbon is light on some level. And the light is eternal. So even carbon has a soul to an extent, and has this infinite being. Everything that suffers is sensible. Everything that is sensible suffereth. Everything that is sad rejoiceth also, and is a mortal living creature. Not everything that joyeth is also sad, but is an eternal living thing. Not everybody is sick, but everybody that is sick is dissolvable. The mind in God, the reasoning or disputing or discoursing in man. Reason in the mind is void of suffering. That's a tough one. I kind of know what he means, but I don't know that that's, there's lots of suffering that comes from the mind. No thing in a body is true. All that is incorporeal is void of lying. Everything that is made is corruptible. Nothing good upon earth, nothing evil in heaven. I don't know about that either. God is good, man is evil. Nope. Straight up nope. If anything, we are a reflection of the intelligence that animates nature. And one of my contentions with this spiritual idea that ultimately the underlying nature of the universe is all just love and light, and then you ask the same person saying that, so the material is a reflection of the spiritual then? Oh, yes, absolutely. But it's all love, and where are we getting the negative reflections from? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense. The reality, I think, is that this intelligence is the full spectrum of all the components of the universe, and this physical expression of that is proof of it. So, not buying this. And again, you guys, if this stuff was perfect, we wouldn't be sitting here. Good is voluntary or of its own accord. Evil is involuntary or against its will. Now, that is an interesting thing because I have long been of the opinion that, the negative is not an active charge. It's more like void. So the positive actually is what lies behind what we perceive to be evil. Death gives rise to life. And so even evil is generally a matter of perspective and also has this necessity, which means that it's actually the savior of the world in a sense because it generates the good and facilitates its existence, right? So the positive is the active constituent. It is the creative force. It is the gestalt of creation. And evil is just sort of a accidental byproduct of this sort of chaos, this passive sort of void in the structure of things that is necessitated in order to give potential and possibility rather than a completely deterministic universe where there's no free will and you know what I mean? And I was surprised recently to actually find that idea in the writings of some Christian that said, evil is just the absence of God, which is, exactly the same way, or the same thing said in a different way. The gods choose good things as good things. Time is a divine thing. Law is humane. Malice is the nourishment of the world. Time is the corruption of man. Whatsoever is in heaven is unalterable. All upon earth is alterable. So law is humane. That's an interesting one because law causes cancer. Law causes death. The necessity of evil in the world causes all kinds of things that I don't want to say because the algorithm will be like, what the fuck, man? You know what I mean? But it's true, at least in the context of the law of necessity, right? And so whether you call this the principle of sufficient reason or the law of necessity, if you accept that the only way for this universe to be composed is to have an exact balance of equal and opposite forces interacting. And I had a friend that I got in a big argument with one time, and it actually kind of destroyed our relationship, which blew my mind that he was like that much of an egomaniac about his ideas, but that's what happens a lot of times when normies become spiritual too fast and, too much too soon. They just go off the rails on the woo-choo train and there's a smoldering wreckage inevitably at the end of this process. But at any rate, we can see that that's not true, that there's an imbalance. That's what he said, that the reason we have all this evil and weirdness is that there's an imbalance in the universe. No, there isn't. Every single particle has an equal and opposite reflection, a negative corollary, anti-corollary. Exactly. So, and there are correspondences that balance things like neutrinos in whatever dark matter actually is. So even where you can find places where that doesn't seem to hold, I think neutrinos are the only case, the resolution of that apparent discrepancy can be found in the structure of dark matter, which is a conversation for another time. We will get there, but yeah, it's all in perfect balance. And okay, so Albert Pike again said of this: they are not just because they're his laws; they are his laws because they are just. Meaning, we do not respect the laws of the universe because some God created them. They are not demanding of respect. We don't have to respect them. They're going to exert themselves on us, whether we like it or not, you know. They are as they are because the universe could not be predicated on any other set of laws. They are necessary. So we either have this eternal nothingness or this. And if you accept the law of necessity or the principle of sufficient reason, it explains everything. Why there is evil in the world, you know, just squashes so much philosophical and religious dissonance, doctrinal dissonance. So let's see. Evil is voluntary or against its will. The gods, time is a divine thing, law is humane, malice is the nourishment of the world. See, good creates evil. And a lot of people will say, you know, because this is much easier to process, I think. One of the reasons for secrecy in Hermeticism and the Western mystery tradition in general is that, you know, people are they get mad, you know, if you really tell them, you know, you guys we don't want to talk about population control with certain people and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like, it's just too much. A lot of the realities are just too much. The bleeding heart human in us, for a lot of us, we're unable to compartmentalize, right? And if you really want to be a good magician or a good mystic and really become enlightened and see the universe from the perspective of the universal rather than the individual, you have to be able to look at things objectively as God would, looking at the planet with a bunch of people on it causing problems and whatnot, and the same way your body would look at a virus in your blood, your immune system, you know. That objectively, really. That's nature managing stuff, you know. And people have a hard time with this. But this is real knowledge. Malice is the nourishment of the world. So, you know, and New Agers and stuff, one of the reasons that they like to say, well, we're going to the fifth dimension soon and everything's going to be all fluffy and fun and our imagination's going to manifest instantly. Nope, never going to happen. When you die, maybe, sure, you can go to another realm where there's a different set of laws. But as long as we are in the physical realm, the laws will not change. They will never change. Even when the universe collapses back into the singularity, on its way down, right, the particles don't even change size. Like nothing, none of the laws are even overturned even during this process, you know, and they will regenerate in exactly the same format the next time around. So it doesn't mean that no improvement is possible. Because there's this idea of raising the floor. We have a relative perspective, and then we have a floor and ceiling, right? So whoever the prima mobile of transcendental consciousness is, like a Buddha or whatever, is drawing the, towing the line, I like to say, of humanity's state of consciousness, I guess. And so, yeah, we can raise the floor. It's never going to be a new age utopia on this planet. It's never going to happen. It's not meant to happen. Nothing in heaven is servanted, nothing upon earth is free. Nothing unknown in heaven, nothing known upon earth. This is another reference to God being nothing for those of you that are, maybe haven't had your coffee today. That's great, man. Nothing unknown in heaven and nothing is known upon earth. Gangster Hermes. The things upon earth communicate not with those in heaven. Not true. Not true. I mean, I don't know what he means by heaven, but that's not how I understand things. All things in heaven are unblameable. All things upon earth are subject to reprehension. Fair. That which is immortal is not mortal. That which is mortal is not immortal. This is an incredible indication that we are actually eternal. If you accept these premises, right, what do they call them in the Kabbalion? The principles, I guess, the precepts. If it's true that everything contains its contradiction, and that everything is both true and false, and it is both true and false to say that these things are true and false, the fact that we die proves that we're immortal. And that's what he's saying here. That which is sown is not always begotten, but that which is begotten always is sown. Yeah. Of a dissolvable body, there are two times, one for sowing to generation, one from generation to death. Of an everlasting body, the time is only from the generation. Dissolvable bodies are increased and diminished. Okay. Dissolvable matter is altered into contraries, to wit, corruption and generation, but eternal matter into itself and its like. The generation of man is corruption. The corruption of man is the beginning of generation. Ooh, man. Again, you guys, we're really starting to beat that whole thing of opposites generating each other to death here, really. I mean, that's what's going on. He's just kind of regurgitating this in a bunch of different ways, and I don't mind. I'm here for it, I guess. The corruption of man is the beginning of generation. Without a conflict, there is no story. This is not really rocket science. That which offsprings or begetteth another is itself an offspring or begotten by another. This, of course, is a problem. The paradox that is integrated into every constituent element of the universe goes all the way back to the first thing, because that's where it all goes back to. And so we have that problem of okay, I have never seen a computer build itself. One of the best arguments that people make for creationism is that saying that blind evolution and other, we have to not only posit that the universe generated itself on a level of just pure matter and elements, chemical level and all that, and then also created all this insane biology that's all so deeply, inextricably intertwined and interconnected and everything. And it's come on, man. It's dumber than saying that a tornado passed over a junkyard and created a UFO, a totally functional UFO, accidentally. It really is that dumb. At the same time, if that's true, then God had to have been created by some God. And the only solution that I have ever been able to come up with for this is that the one thing generates the other in perfect step with each other. So there is the material and the immaterial, and then the experience is the third thing. That's the whole idea of the eye in the triangle. That's what it's telling you. That's what this is telling you. So we had a very fundamental level of consciousness and awareness at the moment of the singularity, really, yeah, I guess you could say it that way. And as the universe has developed in complexity, that's happening partly because of this mind and its creation are sort of bouncing off of each other and having this interaction and co-developing. So, in that case, God would only exist at the end of time, and it's fully, aware state, and the end is the beginning, right? So how did it get to this awareness in the beginning? That's how. That's the loop. I just thought of that now. But what I was also thinking about that is this is not just, Hermeticism or, me thinking. I kind of came to these conclusions about things through my own processes and psychedelics and whatnot. Before I discovered all this stuff, and then I noticed that there's a bunch of different, you know what I mean? Like, if people are not indoctrinated and they think long and hard enough about it with a certain capacity for it, it's not that extraordinary, and people come to the same conclusion. You know what I mean? Pretty sure we know the truth, and that's what it is. But what I was saying is that this idea is the same as the blinking of the eye of Shiva. When God wakes, the universe is destroyed, it collapses back into the singularity, and God goes back to sleep, and we wake up. It's not hard to understand. Microcosm, macrocosm. That's what happens when we go to sleep. We create a world that's just based on our experiences and our thoughts, and we experience it as an experience, but it's not the fundamental reality. Microcosm, macrocosm, as above, so below, so within, so without, And now I hope you guys are getting mad because all this religion, all this crap, all of this bullshit that, we have been dealing with, our fundamental birthright of understanding all this stuff that we should have been knowing for thousands of years, so would have changed the trajectory of humanity, eliminated so much suffering. I'm not happy about it. So let's see, what is this? What is your opinion on dissociative anesthetics like ketamine, DXM, PCP? Well, PCP is pretty ridiculous. It's kind of white trash drug. Dextromorphan, I think you were saying something about ketamine. But ketamine in particular, I think the value of ketamine, and by the way, it's not natural actually, which is weird. It feels so synthetic. I hate it, but they did find a mushroom that produces ketamine naturally. It's not an analog, it's actually ketamine. Man, this conversation just took a left turn, didn't it? But there is a anesthesiologist by the name of Work Theory, he works with this physicist, Roger Penrose, and Stuart Hameroff, Work Theory of Consciousness. So they have been able to figure out all kinds of insane stuff using ketamine because it kind of seems like the individual unit of, the monad is dislodged from the filtration system that gives us that absurd vantage point of absurd vantage point of a single ego or whatever, Terence McKenna said. And so, people heal anxiety with it and PTSD to a degree that no other compound can come close to. And also, Hameroff did an experiment, somehow was able to show that ketamine does not turn off consciousness, I think nitrous oxide as well, at the chemical level. Reverses the spin of electrons, and that's what makes you unconscious. Think about that for a minute. Just sit with that. How's it going, you guys? Do I have a way you can connect with me? Yeah, you can connect with me via my Patreon, or you can email me. My email is always in the descriptions of all videos. And I hate this to an extent, you guys, but I'm pretty busy, so I have to ask to be compensated for my time. I don't do much for free unless you are really in trouble and have a problem and you need someone, and you have no money, then I happily will make an exception. Unless just a few simple questions, you can email me and I'll happily answer them. But if you need, 30 minutes of my time or something, you have to compensate me for it because there's too many people that have started, just like they just kind of expect me to just keep going with stuff for days and weeks, and I just at some point had to put my foot down and say, okay, I can't. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up. Is there a crack in everything that show the light gets in? Yeah, it's funny. I've always said the reason that people are damaged, like me, man, my mom, dude, fucking wasn't her fault, but damn, and my dad, in a way, I don't know if I've ever seen a more pathetic father figure. Not even kidding, and I've noticed that I have some of that light that shines through, and that's got a shit ton to do with it. It's why I'm good as a plant medicine facilitator and a sort of therapist, because I had so much damage and I was able to put myself back together without any influence from the outside world. No therapist, no, I've worked with shaman, I guess, that were helpful to an extent, but you know what I mean? As Terrence McKenna said, I've been referencing him a lot today, but the shaman is a person who has put himself back together, and so I think from learning to do that, you know how to do it for others, for one thing, and also I've always said there's a hole in the soul where the light comes through, so that's the crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. I think, isn't that that Jewish guy that wrote Hallelujah, Leonard Cohen? Wasn't that his song? You just spilled out the beans in front of everyone. Yeah, that was wild, man. I was just thinking through that, and then it hit me like, holy shit, how have I missed this? Have I tried psilocybin with an MAOI? Everyone has. Everyone that's eaten psilocybin. But no, I don't add extra MAOIs. The reason that ayahuasca has become more uncommon is that it's way more dangerous than ayahuasca. And it also is very, very physically uncomfortable for a lot of people, very difficult. And there's really just no reason to also, because something that happens to people that have drank a lot of ayahuasca or smoked a lot of DMT oftentimes is that the way that you process mushrooms changes. So psilocybin has the character of DMT anyways. So, but anyways, what I was saying is that they recently discovered a whole profile or a whole chemical entourage of MAO inhibitors already in the mushrooms. You can see my dad. Okay, so let's see, 5:43. I have to eat mushrooms actually in a bit. So, The Secrets of the Dragon of Light, a book? No. The Dragon of Light is a reference to Hermes. Did I never share my screen this whole time? No way. I could have sworn I shared my screen and shrunk my little thing. Is my lag that bad? I bet it is. Wow, man, that's terrible. Yeah. Holy crap. No, the Dragon of Light is a dragon that Hermes encountered that taught him all this stuff. And we'll get to that, actually, eventually. The book that we're reading is the 1650 edition of the Corpus Hermeticum that was translated from the Arabic. And it's vaguely Christianized. It's not as bad as I remember it being. But yeah, no, it is and it's not. It's part of this book, or these books. Of these things that are, some are in bodies, some in their ideas, whatsoever things belong to operation and working are in a body. That which is immortal partakes not of that which is mortal. If I ask you guys to hit the like button, share, subscribe, consider becoming a patron. You get access to 6.5 years now of premium content, and then also, you can sign up for all kinds of stuff. And then there are options to support via PayPal, Zelle, and cryptocurrency. I know some of you guys have been making money off of this bull run. Help a brother out. We're gonna have to pay the legal fees to, right now we have this dragon in our corner willing to set the thing up and give it a little nudge, but unless it gains a bunch of momentum or something, we're gonna have to pay this guy, and it's not gonna be funny how much that's gonna cost. So if you appreciate our mission and would like to help us take a chunk out of techno-fascism, get gangster with it, Whatsoever things belong to operation or working are in a body. That which is immortal partakes not of that which is mortal. That is clearly untrue, in my opinion. That's the whole point of the universe, unless there is some other meaning meant by partakes. That which is mortal cometh not into a body immortal, but that which is immortal cometh into that which is mortal. See, those two statements are completely contradictory, but we learn in Hermeticism and Hermetic thought, the occult sciences, that things being paradoxical does not mean that they are mutually exclusive. And this is one of the hardest things for the Muggle mind, I think, to break free of. You know, people like to see things in very black and white. You're atheist or religious, you're left-wing or right-wing. You know what I mean? You're not, and all of those things are dumb. You know, so this is part of the point of this process of, in fact, one of the ways to liberate the mind that's taught in mystery traditions is to meet every thought that you have and every belief with its opposite and try to combine them and see if a third thing of a higher nature emerges. You know, and if you're resisting doing that, it's because you're a coward, you're clinging to your shadow, you're clinging to your ego, you know, you want to believe, and belief is the death of intelligence. So through your fear, you are making yourself ignorant and stupid. I'm sorry, you know, but that's how it is. That, you know, the master only knows that he does not know. So, you know, which also isn't exactly true. So that which is mortal cometh not into a body. We've already been there. Operations or workings are not carried upwards, but descend downwards. That, you know, I don't know about that either, because when you do the LBRP, for example, the point of the changing of the directions of the pentagrams is that, you know, the inverted pentagram, which people say is evil, is only evil if you hate life, because it's a symbol of the light descending into matter. And then when you point it upwards, that should be the evil one, really, because that's death, and that's when unless you see it as liberation. So I guess it's a matter of perspective, you know, but that's the point of the invoking. You're drawing these energies down into your microcosm, and the banishing, you're sending them back, which would be back to the universe. So operations or workings are not carried upwards, but descend downwards. That, you know, and what about the great work itself? The real great work, not our great work, but the great work of the universe, the transmutation of light into matter and then back into light that the pentagrams are symbolizing. Also, this is going in both directions. So I would have to, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think I like that one. Things upon earth do nothing. Advantage those in heaven. But all things in heaven do profit and advantage all things upon earth. This is more Christian influence, in my opinion. The real Hermetic way of thinking about this would be that it's an exactly equal exchange. The heaven that it's talking about is the universal mind and its experience through its creation. So to say that the things upon earth are doing nothing for heaven and it's doing everything for us, that's just definitely not. Like, what about our suffering? What about, you know, I mean, people die horrible deaths, terrible things happen to people, cancer sucks. Like, what is this guy talking about, you know? So again, that's the Christianization, I think, again, of Hermeticism. Heaven is capable and a fit receptacle of everlasting bodies, the earth of corruptible bodies. The earth is brutish, the heaven is reasonable or rational. Those things that are in heaven are subjected or placed under it, but the things on earth are placed upon it. Another reason for this sort of whitewashing, or like, you know, the love and light thing, is just the marketability, you know. One of the things that drives people aside from money to convert people is that they really think it's good, that they're protecting the world by giving people religion and a book of rules of ancient date designed to make you all feel great while you fold, spindle, and mutilate the unbelievers from a neighboring state. You can't run a country by a book of religion, not by a heap or a lump or a smidgen. And so, you know, it's not true. The real truth is that only internal processes that are organic have any substance. people just find a book and they're like, I'm going to make myself act in congruence with the dogmas and doctrine of this fucking, creepy old self-help book full of incest and, infanticide and whatever kind, you know what I mean? No. It has to be internal, genuine, organic processes that cause real change inside of people. It's not, but people are driven to promote this stuff by a belief that it's going to help somehow. And so I think the sort of whitewashing this stuff and saying, well, when we get to heaven, everything's going to be perfect, and in heaven, everything's perfect, and the earth is bad and heaven is perfect, that's a sort of sales mechanism, One of the reasons that New Age spirituality is increasingly absolute garbage, and you can see that by the completely abject narcissism of most of the plant medicine communities and New Age, nonsense, that's evidence of it. Your success is your proof. Whatever your results are, explain the substance of your operation. And that is because profit motive is driving people to sort of engineer these things so that they're marketable, which means useless, because it's easy and it sounds good and people want to believe it, and so they're willing to pay for it. There's some of that in this writing. And I guarantee you, in the old Egyptian and Greek versions, there's none of that shit. Truth is self-substantiating. Heaven is the first element. Providence is divine order. Necessity is the minister or servant of providence. That's great. Heaven is the first element. Providence is divine order, and necessity is the minister or servant of providence. Fortune is the carriage or effect of that which is without order, the idol of operation, a lying fantasy or opinion. What is God? The immutable or unalterable good. So, lots to unpack here, and I think I'm just about done because I have to eat the mushroom soon. And by the way, I'm going to do next Saturday, I think is when I've planned it now, a music stream where I'm gonna take a considerable dose of these natalensis and play music for many hours, partly in order to try to raise money for surgeries that I have coming up. I have a bunch of medical stuff that needs addressed, and as a lifelong outlaw, I have no insurance. So, it's all fun and games until you don't got life insurance or medical and whatever. Funny, I just thought about what just happened as I was saying that. I'm not going to say I was applauding. Crazy how, the Europeans, people say, oh, you need gun control and you need healthcare, and well, looks like maybe unregulated firearms can solve the healthcare crisis. Just kidding. It's a bad taste joke. Very bad taste. Would never promote any kind of foul behavior like that. Those that are in heaven are subjected or placed under it, but the things on earth are placed upon it. Heaven is the first element. Providence is divine order. Necessity is the minister or servant of providence. Fortune is the carriage or effect of that which is without order, the idol of operation, a lying fantasy or opinion. What is God? The immutable or unalterable good. Yeah, we're going to stop here, but I am going to talk about that just a little tiny bit. Man, this is going to be really good, and this is not the best part of this. So make sure you share, like, subscribe, put the little thing on that gives you all notifications so you don't miss any of these. Trying to do it every Wednesday, but it's not been working out like that so far. But yeah, it's going to get better and better. So heaven is the first element. We think of this as the fifth element, generally. And, and definitely in science, we kind of think about how things like light are generated by, other physical constituents, which is odd if you consider the fact that we know that matter is light in a standing wave, right? So, That's basically what that references to. Heaven is the first element, the fifth element, spirit. Providence is divine order. And necessity is the minister or servant of providence. I don't think I really need to explain that all that much. I mean, that it hit me hard, so I was thinking I need to say something about this, but it's pretty self-explanatory, and we've already talked about it. Necessity is the minister or servant of providence. As we were saying, that the laws of the universe are as they are, because if they were predicated upon any other lines, the universe would not be able to exist. And so necessity is really the ruler. It is God of this world, because it is the servant. And in that way, when it says that God is immutable or unalterable good, if you interpret that as saying, what should you serve? Good. Not some sky god that who knows who wrote all of his, Muhammad had a 13-year-old girlfriend or whatever, and even Mary was 14 when the Holy Spirit knocked her up. What's going on here? God made Diddy in his own image, I guess. I mean, you know what I mean? These things are just throw it away. Immutable, unalterable good. And in fact, there is a concept in the mystery tradition and others that, the real moral law is something that is just as objective and mathematical as gravity. And that any person that has initiated this dialogue with the light, with nature, is informed of the what is it called? The rules, I had a better word, but that's it. And you see evidence of that, because when people engage in the right way with plant medicines, and they even go on vision quests out in nature, all to eat organic and whatever. I mean, any way that you do that, there are positive changes in the individual. Transcendental really just means that we are escaping the limited vantage point of our, imaginary single ego and experiencing the universal mind or some aspect of it. And that gives us a more holistic sense of being everything. You can tell people you are one with everything until you're fucking blue in the face. You can read in physics that entanglement shows that, there's stuff going on in the farthest neutron star that is directly connected to the electron in the middle of your pineal gland, or wherever. And then we have evidence now that consciousness arises from entangled biphotons created by neurons, and or at least connects us to the consciousness in the universe, because we are certain at this point from science that there is no necessity for neurons for memory or cognition, and probably not for consciousness either, which is a paradigm killer, really. So where was I going with this? So entanglement, consciousness arising from entanglement is like the Buddha, saying that the interconnectedness is the source, that they're one and the same, basically. Pretty wild. What else can I say about that? I feel like I never made my point. Like I was building up this gigantic structure, and then just the tower got blasted. Yeah, anyways. Oh, yeah, you have that experience of that interconnectedness, and there's no getting away from it now. That we have physics and we have ancient mysticism corresponding. Everything is congruent. This understanding is 100% consistent. We place no reliance on virgin or pigeon. Our method is science. Our aim is religion. What else? Science and spirituality dovetailing perfectly, And the thing is that we have to kill the word spirituality because people get the wrong idea. This is kind of what this is really about is understanding the things that science has not really nailed down the mechanisms, although we're getting closer to that every single day, that spiritual people have created superstitious explanations for. This is the new spirituality, where, we're understanding, like, yeah, we're probably eternal, and everything is connected, and consciousness probably has a lot more capacities than science has recognized so far. But there's no woo in the universe either. This is the solution to the antibomb, the antidote to the atom bomb. So thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it adds some value and sustenance and substance to your existence. And join me for part 4, probably Wednesday. Tomorrow night, I'm going to try to weed the weak ones, and I'm going to talk about the stuff that nobody wants to talk about, and try to see how many of my pesky subscribers I can get rid of. He who speaks the truth has few friends, unfortunately, and I'm going to explain why that is true in the next live stream. So please hit the like button, share, subscribe, consider becoming a patron, or supporting us via one of the one-time joints. Medical operations, if you guys enjoy these streams, help keep me alive. I'd appreciate it, and I will see you tomorrow.